We're recording today on the lands of the Jagera people, and we acknowledge the traditional owners here, past, present and emerging. There's a lot of work to do in this space. Hello everyone, I'm Andrea. I'm a former registered nurse and midwife in private practice. Welcome to Beyond the Rona.
Hi, and I'm Tim. I'm a small business owner and I'm a digital marketer.
Today, Tim and I are here for our Beyond the Rona Origins episode.
Episode 1. We made it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. No, this is great. And I think, when we think about, why we set out to do this, it's really to just create a platform for us, for the community to discuss issues around politics. So not necessarily kind of like a politics podcast, but more addressing a lot of the issues around it that actually affect our lives, like, the mistrust in government and, even like all the way down to, what kids are learning in school, what they're picking up about politics, at the home as they grow up, and as they talk with their friends and their co-workers and all that kind of stuff. Politics is actually part of all of our lives, and it has impacts on so many facets, and yet a lot of us are actually really quite disconnected from it. So hopefully, getting people to talk and interact and open up about politics. This was really the purpose of this, and we love talking to people about any kinds of issues, and we'll elaborate soon about what we're going to cover in this podcast. But as you're listening to this, if you have something to say, if any of these kinds of issues matter to you, then please do reach out to us because we'd love to hear from you. But Andrea, what kind of episodes and what kind of themes will we be covering?
Well, we've got a heap to cover. We want to have a look at basically anything and everything that happens in our community. Obviously, we're going to focus on like our local community, which is sort of Logan, and then expand that to Brisbane and then expand that again to Queensland. But, we sort of thought about some of the issues that affect the local community here and what we can do to make things better for the people who live in our local community. And we want to bring people on to sort of voice their opinion on how to build back better after coronavirus. So some of those things are vaccine hesitancy and maybe why people choose not to vaccinate, multiculturalism, because of course Logan is, and Stratton, the local electorate here, is the most multicultural electorate in the whole of Queensland.
Yeah.
And we want to have a look and sort of explore that race divide. The community groups, we want to get, represented, people who represent various community groups to come on and have a chat to us, and maybe representatives from different minority groups, have a chat and explore women and, different problems that maybe arise there, say, family court issues, maybe have a look at it from different sides, maybe even explore men's rights associations and what is the problem there? We hear a lot on social media about, that there are problems there through family court. Have a look at domestic violence, which is, rife in Logan, and in, the areas that we live in. Have a look at privilege and the divide between the rich and the poor. And, we've certainly seen that there's been higher rates of COVID in lower socioeconomic areas. And, maybe we can explore why that is and improve that for the future by talking to our community members. Have a look at power and justice in our community. We want to have a chat to young people in our community and, mental health has obviously been shown to be a problem for our young people. We want to talk to them about how they've gone through COVID and what their future is going to look like. They've been shown to have, issues with owning housing, housing affordability and, those sorts of issues. I mean, COVID has really opened up these massive problems for our community. And I'm not sure whether it is, actually, secretly, I do think it is the problem of our current government. But we want to hear from the community. What do you think? Is changing the government, is that the easy way of solving all these problems, or is it the fact that we need to create new policies? I mean, we want to hear from everybody, and hear what are your solutions, from a grassroots level. So, I mean, there's heaps to look at.
And but wait, there's more.
Yes.
I'm actually going to be looking at, some topics around data and tech, and actually, the human connection factor, how that's actually really changing dramatically how we communicate. If you just think about the last year, and then the last 5 years, and then the last 10 years, just how much different technology is, and how differently we communicate now, with our loved ones, with our friends. It has completely transformed, like underneath our noses, without us really kind of understanding the ramifications that has created. The opportunities, the good sides, and the ways that we can mobilize and kind of like organize a lot more effectively. But then as well, there's the pros and cons, right? And the negative aspects about, social media and the new world of digital communication.
You could talk about that one forever, I bet. That's
yes.
your passion.
Let's do a few episodes on that one, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I promise I'll listen.
Yes. And it's, I mean, like kind of connected with that as well as education. And so that's a really, it's a really kind of important topic for me as well, and education at all levels. So, it's not just kind of, universities and TAFE, but schools, primary schools, early education, and a lot of that kind of those formative years, and how a lot of that time.
Yeah, how's homeschooling? Homeschooling came up during COVID, for the first time.
Exactly.
It became popular. Because they had to do it.
Yeah, and it's that kind of intertwined nature of how, education is changing, but technology is also impacting that in a very big way, and vice versa.
Oh, that's true.
It's a fascinating topic, and there's a lot of teachers in our area in Logan. There's a lot of schools. There's a lot of young families where we're right in the middle of it. So I think that we as a community have a lot to say about that. As well as that, healthcare and aged care, to really other kind of big topics that governments talk about.
And care for disabled people too.
And care for,
add that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So I think, these are really big issues that are very complex, but we want to touch on these because they affect us all. And then, the provision of government services, this is another interesting one, and that debate between the, private and public ownership, what happened potentially, in the 80s and 90s in this country really shaped where we are today. But then also, what are we doing right now, and how is that also affecting not just the country, but also local communities, and then housing. You touched on that before, Andrea, about affordability, but just housing in general, and the process around.
Because they reckon older women are, becoming homeless, which is terrible.
Yes.
That's terrible.
Absolutely, it's shocking, and when you hear as well about those who have retired and are in the twilight period of their life, and they have housing insecurity, or they're in bad rental arrangements, and it's just it really shouldn't be like that. As a society, we kind of need to do better. So I think that's certainly an area that we'll be looking at, and that point about, I guess, justice in the community and human rights as well.
Yeah. So all of this is against the backdrop of what the future looks like now. Now that COVID is getting weaker in our community, and so we're all getting used to it. So it's kind of like, this introduction of this disease into our community, kind of like when, say the First Nations people were first in Australia, and, and white people came and they brought these strange diseases. This is like how, this new coronavirus came, and nobody was immune to it. Nobody had any, any idea of, their bodies didn't know how to fight it. But now we're kind of getting to the point where we've either been vaccinated against it, or we've got antibodies against it, and it's getting weaker, and it's not able to do the damage that it did. So, we're able to kind of open up the economy, as they say.
Yes.
And the disease itself is mutating and getting weaker, so we're able to turn the corner and be stronger against it. So at this point, you know, we want to know as a community, what are some massive changes we could make to, you know, to live with COVID in our community and build back better.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, on that point, you know, the economy, but as well, you know, small business survival, me being involved in a small business, and you, Andrea, have also been involved in small businesses, what that means for the small business community, and also what it means for kind of job creation into the future, and what employees want. So on the other side, you know, the union movement, and I guess as well, other aspects of the economy, like the arts economy. And I think that that's as much an economy as it is, you know, seen as kind of just like this community of artistes that is actually a multi-billion-dollar industry in its own right, right? And yeah,
they really missed out.
Exactly. How that's connected to some newer concepts like this idea of universal basic income, which was kind of popularized by a presidential candidate in the US, Andrew Yang. But then closer to home, ICAC and the you know, Corruption Commission and the issues in New South Wales, climate.
Yeah, they're
who
going
could forget
through
climate and you know, renewables.
Climate, yes.
So yeah, we're having a look at a lot of different and diverse topics, as well as some contentious legislation in the community that people from the community might actually have some views onto.
Yeah. So an example of contentious legislation might be like voluntary assisted dying, which obviously has passed in Queensland now. Mm-hmm. You know, abortion, which or the, you know, I still get people who want to come and talk to me about, you know, their opinion on whether women should have abortions, because we must have a lot of people who confuse faith and religion with politics, which, you know, I suppose there's a lot of people who do, you know, put those two together, but we have so many different religions in our local community, along with multiculturalism, that, you know, a lot of people are saying now that we really have to separate faith from politics. So that's something to really explore as well. And another example of contentious legislation is equal pay for disabled people. You would think that that's not something we have to debate, but hey, here we are. Exactly. What we don't want, though, is an episode on war. That would be a bad thing.
Yes. Yeah. What is it good for?
Yes.
So I think, there's a lot we want to cover. But we also want this to be as much a voice for you. So please do get in touch with us, and we'd love you to come along on this journey with us. If there's an issue that you're passionate about, please do reach out. So especially if you're in Logan or if you're in Brisbane, contact us through our website, which is beyondtherona.com.
Yeah. We hope, I think, by the end of this that we're a more cohesive community, and that people feel heard. That would be great. We're non-partisan, by the way. We're doing this off our own backs. You could say, though, that we do have progressive views because we are listening to the people. This is grassroots democracy at its best, and we will hopefully use these views to help us move forward as a community. But we just thought it was something that might help our community and make things better, and that was our main motivation for doing this. So I guess maybe people want to know how we actually got here as people. Tim, what was your life like as a child?
Oh, yeah.
Did you learn about politics in school?
I did actually. And how I learned about it in primary school was through this wonderful ABC show called Beyond the News. Behind the News, BTN.
Behind the News,
not Beyond the News. And Behind the News was great. We had at the time, and I was actually really encouraged to see that it's still going. So ABC still run BTN.
Oh, do they?
And I think that is fantastic because I think it's it really comes down to, in your early years, the people around you. And so a lot of young people get their kind of like political views and persuasions from their parents, but that is, I feel, is decreasing in society, and there's a lot less kind of, strong views about this that are being handed on to kids. And so, yeah, teachers are becoming, quite influential in that sense.
Oh,
and I
definitely.
think that, BTN just gave me as a kid in grade 6, a few facts about how do governments work? Who is the Prime Minister? What do they do? And what's going on in the world? And to actually take an interest. I think that's like half the battle, is getting encouraging young people to actually take an interest in the world and in politics.
Like, you do have to wonder though in schools whether the national curriculum is being kind of tweaked to sort of the federal government in at the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You do have to wonder, when we had sort of state curriculums, whether, each state could tweak the curriculum according to whether there was a Labor government or a Liberal government in. But now that we have a national curriculum, and we've had a federal government in now for, quite some time, whether the curriculum has been tweaked to be more sort of conservative views. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, the fact that kids have been able to learn about climate change and things like that, I mean, that's great. That's come through science. So,
yes.
I have to think, well, I wonder if they're really surprised that, kids have actually learned about climate change when we've still got our politicians out there saying, that it's not real.
Exactly. And I think that when you look at kids, teenagers and young adults, and how much more aware and, conscious they are of our world and the climate and the challenges that we have in front of us, and actually like how much inaction there is. Yeah. And also the fact that for a lot of young people, it is causing concern, anxiety, and also like outrage. And I think that is, it's good to see that, young people care that much, because without that, it's going to be hard for us to get action unless all of us really push for it. Because, at the end of the day, unless there's kind of like an economic, benefit, a lot of things just don't happen in Canberra. And I think on climate, it can be, there's increasingly an economic benefit, but now we've got also a really strong moral force that's running alongside and actually being led very heavily by our young people. So that's really great. Yeah.
One of the things I noticed was, one of my first jobs was at a fruit shop. And I mean, this was many, many years ago, right? And I got paid like $5 an hour. Okay. And the thing is, when my daughter got a job, it was about, I don't know, say, I think it was about $8 an hour. But this was 20 years later.
Right.
And I'm thinking, how on earth, 20 years later, I got paid $5 an hour and she got paid $8 an hour. How can that be? How can they expect the wage growth to be so small over such a long period of time and still expect young people to, to go on and buy a house and,
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? I just don't understand that. How can the wage growth not be there? Like, it's not there.
The discrepancy,
Yeah.
And how it compares, for example. Yeah.
It blew my mind when I saw that, and I thought, this is just unbelievable. And then, it used to be only sort of a third of your income was massive to spend on your mortgage,
Right. Yes.
And, now it's like a massive chunk of someone's mortgage, and now you need two people working full time to pay off a mortgage. Plus they tend to get someone in to rent, to help pay a mortgage. And that's if a young person can even afford a mortgage. You know what I mean? Like, it used to be 10 times your yearly income was how they worked out, whether you could afford a mortgage, and now it's just beyond someone's capability to even get a mortgage.
Absolutely.
All of these things is just, it's nothing to do with Smashed Avo.
No.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, it blows my mind, how things have just gone, so all of these problems that, you notice, you just think, this is really poor policy.
Exactly.
Really poor government policy that has led us down this track. And so then you look at, people who are in poverty, and you think, your mind changes and you just think, there's something wrong here. This is not right, I actually belong to a few minority groups. I'm disabled myself, as you know. And so, I think, and my father's Fijian, but I didn't really have any, major sort of problems because I'm obviously white passing. But I do notice in the community that, there are race divides out there.
Yes.
I don't know. Did you have any early experiences with having to, I don't know, stand up for minority groups or anything like that in your...
Yeah, well, I mean, as a kid, I was also, I'm half Filipino, and so that I wasn't white, but then I think as a kid, people couldn't really tell what I was. I just wasn't like them. I just didn't look like them, but then I appeared to be Asian. That was kind of, the catch-all group. And so, certainly as a kid growing up in Logan, you at that time, I certainly did feel like there was, some elements of racial inequalities. And actually my mother worked in the council, kind of on the front line with immigrants. And what I realized and realized a lot later was actually Logan is a huge area for immigrant, for new immigrants to our country. Logan welcomes a lot of new immigrants. And so because of that, and because you also mentioned before, Andrea, about the diversity of cultures, we're so, blessed, to have such a diverse, array of different cultures in Logan. That also then as well represents a lot of challenges because a lot of them have come from, bad places and have fled their countries and gone through horrendous experiences. They need help. They need help. There's things that we need to do as our community leaders need to do to acknowledge that is the case. And I don't know that all of them have. And so I think there's that's kind of step one, and then actually doing the things that can help. The good thing is that there are so many great community organizations out there that do incredible work. So
have you ever been a petition signer or a MP letter writer or a union organizer or anything like that?
I've been known to sign the odd petition. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done quite a few.
How about you? Yeah.
Yeah, I've done quite a few. I don't know whether it actually has an impact, but I share these things on social media and, you just don't know if it actually makes a difference. You hear sometimes that it does and sometimes it doesn't, but, you feel like you're doing something to help. I don't know. Yeah. I do write letters to MPs regularly. I'm sure they look and go, not this chick again.
I actually, I've done a few of those online letters where you kind of add yourself to the kind of templated response. But I think that's probably an area that I could probably do more of, especially since we're doing this. And now we're going to be talking about, really specific issues and learning a lot about what our community thinks about certain issues too.
I think my major, my major points through, interacting with politics was probably when, not at uni, mind you. I had such a good time at uni. I think I mentioned right at the beginning, I'm a registered nurse and midwife. And I had such a good time at uni. I knew where the pub was and I knew, I loved all my friends at uni. we had an awesome time. But I had no idea about politics at uni. I was really surprised that they even had a Senate and all that sort of stuff. I found out about that like recently. I had no idea. I just had a good time. But it wasn't until I became a midwife and then I started like wanting something. So it wasn't until like I had a need and a want. So as a midwife, I wanted to practice, using my skills for what I had learned. And that was as in home birth. And to actually, the things that I was taught in uni, and I was taught by Jenny Gamble, who was a home birth midwife at one stage. And she's quite political, always was. She's moved over to the UK now. I just wanted to practice using the skills that I was taught right here, but home birth wasn't a thing. And midwives weren't allowed to practice in the public system using the skills that I was taught, and women weren't able to be autonomous for the choices that they wanted to make in birth in the public system, because the public system was all about sort of making money and saving money for Queensland Health, rather than what was best for women and what was best for their bodies and what was best for their babies. And it was on a time limit. So it was like a birth factory. So you had to get the women in, have their baby on a time limit, get them out, get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out. It was like that. And It had nothing to do with job satisfaction. It had nothing to do with, evidence-based practice, basically. And I couldn't stand it. And so, when I had that want to practice according to what I was taught and evidence-based practice, as well as what was safer for the mother, what would save money for the health system, as well as autonomy for the women and autonomy for the midwife, that's when I really got into politics. And I started doing things like breastfeeding sit-ins at coffee shops, because a coffee shop said that a woman couldn't breastfeed there, and I started protesting for Medicare for midwives, Medicare provider numbers for midwives. And, we all went down to Canberra, with a moment's notice to go and protest for home birth and Medicare and all that sort of stuff. We had like 2,000 or 3,000 people go down to Canberra. I helped What Women Want was a political party back in 2007 formed by Justine Keynes. And made heaps of friends around that time, Liz Wilkes, Melissa Fox, and people with Maternity Coalition. And I got involved with Maternity Coalition back then, fighting for birth reform and all that sort of stuff. I worked in the chief health office there and helped on policy there, and got really passionate about, women's health, that sort of stuff. And then I became disabled and started using a wheelchair and noticed that like I couldn't get into anything. I couldn't get into the school buildings. I couldn't get into government buildings,
Yes.
So it was that when I noticed that there was like things that were unfair and things that I couldn't do and it didn't add up, it just didn't make sense. It was then that I kind of got into kind of going to protests and voicing my opinion and, turning that like passion and, the fact that these things weren't right, social justice stuff, I guess, that's when I started turning to politics and saying, hey, this is not good. That's when I got into it a little.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's fascinating. It's a great story. And I think that we will, learn more about, our experiences throughout this podcast. And in fact, just after this, we've got someone coming in to chat with us, don't we?
Yeah, we do. I'm looking forward to this one. This person's a real character. Oh, I forgot to tell you, every episode that we're doing, we're going to be asking them if they've got 3 big ideas of how we can rebuild in our community better. Yeah.
And yes, I mean, I think everyone remember if there's any issues that you're passionate about, that if you've watched or listened to an episode of Beyond the Rona and you've got some follow-on thoughts, please do. Yeah, get in touch with us at beyondtherona.com.
Yeah, it's good talking to you today, Tim.
Likewise.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
See ya. Bye.